chair of the committee to just allow for now that latitude with the Budget and Appropriations Committee. But in future, it is indeed true what the committee is raising, that matters touching on budget ought to be processed through the relevant departmental committees, so that we don't get things being parachuted into the budget without being interrogated by the committees that oversight those particular departments. And I think the Honorable Nzengu, being a good, not good old man, but a seasoned legislator and a very seasoned member of that committee, will indulge the budget committee for this time round. Next time, we will ensure that things are done as they should.
Very well. Members, I now put the question that clause 5 be amended as proposed. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. I now put the question that clause 5 be amended be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
The schedules, first schedule.
Very well, honorable members. I propose the question that the first schedule be the schedule of the bill. Chair, you have got an amendment on this. The first schedule.
Thank you very much, Chair. And it appears on the order paper. I'm sure members can peruse, and I wish to make that amendment, to table that amendment as proposed in the order paper.
Very well. I propose the question that Schedule 1 be amended as proposed. Very well. I now put the question that Schedule 1 be amended as proposed. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Well, on Macau.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, allow me from the onset to thank the Committee on Budget and Appropriations for giving us ODS, and we are amending the first schedule 1 by deleting the expression Kenya shilling 300 million appearing at a program 07223000, that is General Administration, Planning and Support Services, in respect of development estimates, and substituting, therefore, with the expression Kenya shillings 400 million, and the 2, by effecting the consequential amendments in the bill thereof. Thank you, Chair.
Very well. Attorney, let me propose the question first. I propose the question that Schedule 1 be amended as proposed by Hon Macau. Let me hear Hon Attorney.
Chair, I just wanted Hon Macau to explain further what is the intention of increasing this development expenditure.
Hon Macau, that is straight to you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, from the onset, I said that I want to thank the Committee of Budget and Appropriations. Chairman, you are all aware that the Mbunge Tower has been ongoing. And Mr. Chairman, I thank also the leadership of this House and the Chairman of the Budget and Appropriation Committee that visited the new building. Chairman, you are aware that this building has taken years and years. This commission, the sixth commission, is committed to making that house be occupied. Mr. Chairman, when you look at the pending bills that have been there and that we presented to the same budget committee, Mr. Chair, there are some pending bills. And Mr. Chairman, we are glad that the same committee granted us 300 million. And now we are further seeking for 100 million that we have indicated as 100 million will come from the vote 2042. So Mr. Chairman, as the Speaker had communicated that we are not in contravention of the same. So Mr. Chairman, that's why we felt we should put this amendment so that we have more money. Mr. Chairman, you realize some of our members don't have offices. And by adding this money and paying the pending bills for the various contractors, we will be able to make that Bunge Tower occupiable, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. Chairman, I am sure even the Honorable Latande, who was very fundamental in making PSC get this money, and the chairman, they are aware that we cannot keep on keeping that house unoccupied. Mr. Chairman, it's upon this house to make it possible that we occupy that building. And I want to assure you members that by the end of April, that house will be habitable, it will be occupiable, and our members will have their offices there, and our staff will have their offices there. I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very well. Let me hear from the chair.
Thank you very much, Chair. And for the comfort of members, this is just the PSC reorganizing their own budget. They have reorganized their own votes, and therefore they are not encroaching on any other votes or any other person's budget or any other MDA's budget. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chair, we had the opportunity to interact with the PSC, with the leadership of the member for Mavoko, and we put them into task that once then we grant, because we actually granted additional resources, then this issue of the Bunge Towers must now become a thing of the past. They must now pull up their socks, they make sure all the pending works are done, and the members should occupy that house as soon as it is practically possible, so that we save ourselves of the recurrent costs, Mr. Speaker, that we pay offices outside of the precincts of Parliament, and so that, Mr. Speaker, the members of this House can get decent offices. That is the essence, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman.
On Bokose, let me give you the last chance before we put the question. Bokose.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, looking at the reorganization, it does not incur an extra cost. But what I want to say is that this process of building the new tower, it is actually taken very long. And it's an embarrassment as a house that we provide oversight to other institutions, to have our own institution taking that long and tracking on with the pending bills and becoming a cash cow, maybe for other people. I think it's a right, and one time, Honorable Chair, some of us felt that the Facility and Improvement and Facility and Services Committee should be the committee.
Very well. Honelachi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just to add on it and to appreciate the budget chair, but also to just tell our House that indeed it is time, first of all, Mr. Speaker, we ask the Commission to stop any other project and to now finalize with the monies that they are being given to finalize that tower and to give us dignity so that also people don't just question. We have the pension towers here that was finished that only spent 2 billion to finalize. It is unfair for members, for their welfare, and more important, for the image of Parliament, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, as we conclude on this matter, let me allow Wilberforce Oundo, very briefly.
Chair, I totally agree they need to finalize the building, the tower, but I hope in the fullness of time, Parliament or Parliamentary Service Commission will review all the leases and all the expenditures on rent so that we don't continue losing money that we could have used for more fundamental functions or mandate of the National Assembly. But tellingly, Honorable Speaker, and I think this is a matter that Parliamentary Service Commission needs to pick up, and the chair can also pick up, there has been continued complaint that the building belonging to National Chamber of Industry and Commerce was appropriated, so to speak, by the National Assembly or Parliament. It has never used the building, and they have never paid any rent. Are we facing a situation we are going to have an extremely high case of pending bill? I think that's a matter that needs to be addressed in fullness of time, so that as we reorganize the sitting arrangement and the space for the Parliament, we put this matter to rest, that we are not confronted with another huge pending bill in the next budget. Thank you, Chair.
Lastly, Attorney, right of reply. Let me hear from you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, Honorable Pukosi has spoken for me. But what I wanted to say, Chair, is that members need beautiful offices in which they need to operate and serve Kenyans. But, Chair, we need to question PSC. That one, they are running so many programs. They start new programs before they finish the ones that are already ongoing. And the case in point is this case of our tower. This tower is been going on for many years, and this house has appropriated a lot of money for it. And we don't want PSC members to come before the house and ask for money, and there's no accountability. Therefore, I want to say that as I support that amendment, I want to urge PSC that they must account for the resources that we have given them, and especially to Budget Committee and also to this House. And also, Chair, this is also the opportunity that members have to interrogate PSC. So even if they want money, we need to ask them what they have done with the previous monies. In the Budget Committee, we had very many questions which were not answered, Chair. So even as we approve and I support, we need clear answers on some of the resources they have. We don't want PSC that is only traveling and spending per diems and not giving this House answers on programs. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I support.
Very well. I put the question that Schedule 1 be amended as proposed by Hon Macau. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. I now put the question that Schedule 1 be amended, as amended, be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as are of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Second schedule.
Second schedule. I propose the question that the second schedule be part of the bill. Mover? Chairman? Chair? Second schedule.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, and I wish to propose the amendments as they appear on the order paper.
I propose the question that the second schedule be amended as proposed by the chair. I put the question that the second schedule be amended as proposed by the chair. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. I now, there's another amendment. Very well. Hon Macau.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I've listened to the concerns of members, but I urge these members, Mr. Chairman, to give us a benefit of doubt. This is a new commission. And Mr. Chairman, as I said, we are committed, and actually we are at the tail end of concluding this building. And Mr. Chair, therefore, I wish to to amend the second schedule as it appears on the order paper, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Very well. I propose the question that Schedule 2 be amended as proposed by Hon Macau. I see Hon Ochieng.
No, thank you so much, Chair, and thank you, the Budget Committee Chair, for a good job, to the PSC for finally saying they want to finalize. I just wanted to ask the Chairperson that as they do so, spare even 5 million shillings only to give us a place to walk from. Because walking from the case, from Cope Bank into Continental House is difficult. We can't walk there. I mean, as you do that, make the life of members of parliament a bit easier. You can't brush our shoes 7 times in a day, because if you go to your office in Continental House when you leave, or you go to the gym when you leave, by the time you go to parliament, you are so dusty and all that. So as you do the offices, make sure that even the walkways are done so that we're able to, I mean, some dignity for members. Thank you.
The interventions here. Nikal. Or Nikal.
Again, as I support this, and the chair of the Budget and Appropriation Committee and the other committees, they have done a good job, except now we are having a lot of generalities. You are actually increasing a budget by 100 million, and you say we are increasing because we want to get the work done. Surely, this is the time you say, we are going to say buy furniture, and we are needed this money, and this is what we are going to do. And now you say this another 100 million here. Say exactly why the need was seen. I don't think in the committee they just sat and said, I think we need 100 million. There must have been something that was needed to be done. And in order to guide the House, like in this case, what exactly did we want to do with this 100 million?
Very well. On Wachira Karani, Laikipia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to intervene. I declare my interest. I'm the chair of Services and Facilities in Parliament, National Assembly. Our committee is the one that is supposed to oversight the Parliamentary Service Commission. But you have realized, Mr. Chairman, whenever we as a committee are supposed to do our work, Parliamentary Service Commission comes here and gives a statement. Like this afternoon, when the substantive speaker was on the chair, members complained about crossing over to the offices on the other side. But
proceed, but you are being challenged on the relevance of your contribution. Yes. Proceed.
Thank you very much. So I was saying it is important that the speaker gives a ruling on the boundaries between the Services and Facilities Committee and the Welfare section of the Parliamentary Service Commission. I support.
Very well. Let's hear Hon Githinji. Hon Githinji.
Thank you.
Githinji.
Thank you, Chair. Though it is within the mandate of the PSC to reorganize their floats, Mr. Chair, it's also very important for them to support with facts and to tell this House whether the amount that they are requesting now will be adequate to completely finish the House, so that we don't have another figure coming up from somewhere in the main budget, so that we can finish the issue of the tower once and for all in this supplementary budget.
Very well. Finally on this, Engineer Paul Nzengu.
Thank you, Chairman. Much as we appreciate that this is a new commission, I think this building has taken far too long, and there's a lot of money that has already been pumped in. So we need the new commission to do an audit and report to the House the state of affairs, because we are privy to information that there could be some technical issues that are causing the delay of the completion. But I support.
Finally, Hon Meli on this.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to put a point on this, especially on the Parliamentary Service Commission. It has taken them far too long, about over 10 years, before we normally bring the bill to the Parliamentary Service Commission and it's not yet paid. Can we have it done on time? Thank you.
Thank you. I now put the question. That Schedule 2 be amended as proposed by Hon Macau. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as Very well. I propose the question that the title be the title of the bill. I put the question that the title be the title of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as are of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clause 1.
I propose the question that Clause 1 be part of the bill. I now put the question that Clause 1 be part of the bill. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Will as many as are of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Very well, members, and thank you very much. We are through. I now call the mover to report.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chairperson, I beg to move that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the Supplementary Appropriations Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2023, and its approval thereof with amendments.
Very well. I put the question, which is that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2023, and its approval thereof with amendments. I now put the question that as many as of that opinion say aye? Will as many are as of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Chairman.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to report that the Committee of the whole House has considered the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2023, and approved the same with amendments.
Thank you. The mover.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. I also request Honorable Dr. Pukose to second the motion for agreement with the report of the Committee of the Whole House.
Honorable Bukose.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I second.
Honorable members, I propose the question, which is that the House do agree with the committee in the said reports. I now put the question, which is that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Mover.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, sir, I beg to move that the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2023, be now read at that time. I also request Honorable Murugara to second.
Honorable Speaker, I do second.
Honorable members, I propose the question, which is that the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2023, be now read a third time. I now put the question, which is that the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, National Assembly Bill number 4 of 2023 be now read a third time. Will as many of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to authorize the issue of certain sums of money out of the consolidated fund and their application towards the service of the year ending on the 30th June 2023 and to appropriate those sums for certain public services and purposes.
Thank you. Next. Honorable members, we have now finished the appropriations bill. Now I will, given the number of members who showed support for Honorable Mwalio's motion of adjournment, I will stay the next order, which is a continuing debate on the proposal to amend the Constitution, and move the House to start the debate on the motion of adjournment. I also want to encourage members that the subject matter that the Honorable Mwalio is bringing to the floor is highly emotive, definitely divisive, and I want to encourage all of you who want to contribute and who will contribute to moderate your language and speak on the matter with sobriety, maintaining the dignity of this House. And that being the case, then we will be guiding the country accordingly. No unnecessary passions, no unnecessary emotions, and let's avoid any unnecessary altercations between members. Honorable Mwalio.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to move this motion by giving a background of the events. The Supreme Court, having okayed a plea as requested by the National Gay and Lesbian Human Rights Commission, NGIHRC, that the latter be registered as NGO by the NGO Coordination Board, whom and contested the request for registration due to some obvious violation of reflected in the Penal Code and such other acts, including but not limited to the NGO Coordination Act and the Sexual Offences Act 3 of 2006. Since the decision was pronounced, there has been a public outcry regarding the moral course we are taking as a country. Our principles, norms, values, and the practices have never been anchored on undefined and uncharacterized sexual orientation for as long as our existence can be traced and documented. It is prudent to note and appreciate that all acts of unnatural sex acts and associations have been criminalized in the Penal Code Chapter 63 Laws of Kenya, as further read with the Sexual Offences Act number 3 of 426. The ruling by the Apex Court presents an unforeseen avenue to open a floodgate of unprecedented acts and activities where groups and associations are likely to register their associations, citing existence of the very right exercised by the National Gay and the Lesbian Human Rights Commission. The same shall be cited as a legal procedure to argue reasonable grounds for such a registration. In April 2nd, 2013, the National Gay and Lesbian Human Rights Commission, NGLHRC, attempted to reserve a name for registration as an NGO with the NGO Coordination Board, but the names were deemed unacceptable. In April 2013, after 3 attempts to change the name, National Gay and Lesbian Human Rights Commission sought services of an advocate and filed a petition at the High Court of Kenya, petition number 44 of 2013. In April 24, 2015, the High Court of Kenya delivered the first judgment from a 3-judge bench confirming freedom of association for people of diverse identities and expanding Article 27 of the Constitution to include non-discrimination of people. In April 2015, the NGO Coordination Board appealed the court decision at the Court of Appeal after they failed dissatisfied by the High Court findings. In March 29, 2019, the Court of Appeal dismissed civil appeal number 145 of 2019 and thus confirmed the right of association for LGBTQ people. Therefore, thereafter, the NGO Coordinator Board appealed the Court of Appeal decision to the Apex Court, the Supreme Court. February 24, 2023, just the other day, the Supreme Court of Kenya affirmed the decision of the High Court and the Court of Appeal to allow the registration of National Gay and Lesbian Human Rights Commission as an NGO with the words gay and lesbian in its title. In conclusion, if this matter is unmitigated, we risk to inject bad morals in the society to the unfounded natural basis, this poses even greater danger to the schools-going children who are at high risk to adopt lifestyles which are erratic and contrary to their upbringing. In conclusion, the Bible says in the book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 27 to 28, when God joined a man and a woman, he told them, multiply and fill the earth. Now, the question is, a man and a man, are they going to multiply and fill the earth? A woman and a woman, are they able to give birth and multiply as the Bible has said? Therefore, I want to move this so that we can be able to debate and advise this country and the people that elected us that we are not together with this judgment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Mwalio. So that we can get the perspective of the other religion, may we have Honorable Mishi Mboko, the MP for Likoni and Commissioner.
Asante sana, Mheshimiwa Chair wa Speakers Panel. Mimi nataka kuunga mkono Mheshimiwa kwa sababu ya kuleta hoja hii. Na hoja hii naona imezua tumbo joto sana katika nchi yetu kwa sababu imeweza kugusa mambo ya maadili yetu sisi kama Waafrika na sisi kama Wakenya, sisi kama Wakristo, sisi kama Waislamu na hata zile dini za kijamii. Kwa hakika sisi tunaheshimu mahakama. Lakini kwa sababu tunaheshimu mahakama, hatuwezi pia kukubali hukumu ambazo zimetolewa ambazo zitaathiri jamii zetu. Tunajua hivi sasa kabla ya LGBT ama hawa wanaojiita LGBT kuweza kupata vibali vya kuweza kutengeza makundi yao na kuweza kutambulika katika taifa letu, kumekuwa na tetesi na athari nyingi sana za mambo haya ambayo yako kinyume na dini yetu na yako kinyume pia na tamaduni zetu. Kwa Wakristo najua katika Biblia tunajua habari za Sodoma na Gomora. Na katika Kiislamu pia katika Quran tumeona mambo ya Sodoma na Gomora. Sasa je, leo watu hawa tukiwapa kipao mbele cha kuwapatia nafasi inavyoendelea? Kwa sababu pia tumekumbwa na majanga mengi sana ya maradhi ya COVID, maradhi ya saratani na mambo mengi. Hivyo basi lazima tuangalie takrimu ya idadi yetu kupitia mazazi ama vile tunavyoweza kuongeza idadi ya Wakenya katika nchi yetu. Leo hii tunaambiwa ya kwamba watu hao watakuwa na uwezo wa kuwa na kundi lao, waweze kuendeleza hoja zao. Pengine swali tutauliza, wakiwa na makundi kama haya, hoja zao zitakuwa ni zipi? Swali litakuwa hoja zao ni kwamba sisi tumetengwa. Mumetengwa vipi? Wewe ukiwa Mkenya, ukiwa mke, ukiwa mume, haki zako zote za kimsingi ziko katika katiba na haki zako zimeangaliwa. Iwapo utasema ya kwamba tunataka makundi tutetee haki zetu, haki gani? Na kwangu mimi zitakuwa si haki bali ni upotevu na ni madhambi makubwa sana ambayo tunataka kuyaidhinisha katika nchi hii. Tunajua makundi haya yamekuwa yakifanya kazi kisiri, yakiweza kufanya ile tunasema Kiingereza awareness, na wakifanya recruitment ama ile kuandikisha watu katika makundi yao ili kuwaingiza katika tabia potofu kama hizi. Leo tukiwapatia ruhusa muafaka ya kisheria ya kwamba tumewapatia nafasi muwe na makundi haya ama majukwaa haya na muweze kuzungumza mambo yenu ambayo mnayahitaji, je, taifa hili la Kenya tutaweza kuwa katika hali gani? Mimi nataka kumwona kiongozi wa taifa hili akiweza kuzungumzia swala hili na akiweza kulikemea swala hili, kama anavyosema yeye ni Mkristo ambaye ameshika dini sana, na iwapo ni Mkristo kweli ameshika dini sana, tunataka kusikia sauti yake na tunataka kusikia sauti ya taifa zima la Kenya likikemea jambo hili. Tunajua tunazungumzia ya kuwa ulimwengu umebadilika na kwamba kuna mambo mengi sana lazima yawe yanabadilika, lakini hatutakubali kubadilika kiwango cha kwamba tutakwenda kinyume na dini yetu na tutakwenda kinyume na maadili yetu sisi kama taifa. Ukiangalia katiba yetu kuna sura ambayo imezungumzia maadili ya kitaifa. Je, katika maadili ya kitaifa mumeweza kuona mambo ya wasagaji na mambo ya mashoga? Pole, kwa sababu lugha hino pengine itakuwa ni lugha potofu, lakini ndivyo inavyoitwa Kiswahili. Kwa mwanamume itakuwa ni mashoga, kwa mwanamke itakuwa ni masago. Na tunajua watu hawa, na katika haya mambo wanayoyafanya ni mambo mabaya ambayo pia yanatuletea maradhi. Sasa haswa kwa wasagaji, mambo wanayotumia na vifaa wanavyotumia ni kuleta saratani za kizazi katika kina mama, na jambo hili hatutaweza haswa kulikubali. Na haswa iwapo watu wetu wataiga tabia hizi na ziwaingie katika nafsi zao, basi itakuwa mtoto wa kike hatapata mume wa kumuoa na mtoto wa kiume pia hatapata mke wa kumuoa, kwa sababu athari huanza polepole. Unapoona moshi ujue moto uko njiani waja, na wakati umefika moto. Je, tutaweza kuzima madhambi hayo? Watoto wa kiume tunawaenzi, watoto wa kike tunawaenzi. Ndiposa Mwenyezi Mungu alipomuumba Adam na akamtoa Hawa kutokana kwa Adam, ili tuweze kuzaa na tuweze kuweka ulimwengu wetu katika hali ya usawa. Jamani, tunataka kusikia sauti ya rais ikikemea jambo hili. Tunataka kusikia sauti za mawaziri na vitengo vyote vya serikali na wabunge wenzangu, tukemee jambo hili. Jambo hili likiwa, basi sisi tumeangamia na umma wetu umeangamia. Hatutaweza kuwa na watoto wa kike wala mtoto wa kiume, manake kama mtoto wa kiume atavaa kama mtoto wa kike, kama mtoto wa kiume atataka kujiiga mpaka tabia za kike ndo azifanye. Je, sisi tutakuwa watoto wa kike na wa kiume? Hilo ni swala nyeti na tafakari ya babu. Tujiangalie, tujinasue, tujiulize kama taifa, hata kama tunataka kusaidika, lakini hatutaweza.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Mboko kwa maono hayo. Mheshimiwa Rindikiri Mugambi, mjumbe wa Buri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I study here as a Christian and one of posts of our generations. Mr. Speaker, what we have seen from the Supreme Court, tomorrow we will most likely get some human and animal movement, because there are some human beings with appetite for animals. They will also go to court. And if there's being a case in court, it has sent some benchmarks. We should expect anything from our Supreme Court. Mr. Speaker, I join the other members because this is a very serious matter. They have no regard on survival of humanity in Kenya. This behavior is a foreign behavior. It's a behavior that is common in most affluent communities. It is not common in rural areas. It's not common in areas that we all know preach religion, whether Muslim or Christianity or Hindu. More than 90% of Kenyans worship God. This section of perpetrators of this funny behavior, they don't even constitute 0.00001% of our population. I thought from where we come from, the Chief Justice is a mother. The Chief Justice of Kenya is a mother. The Justice in Supreme Court, their fathers and brothers and sisters. We are asking, did they really do that, knowing for sure that this matter is going to generate a lot of heat in our circles? Mr. Speaker, I think time has come. We have to preserve our dignity as Kenyan. And we cannot allow, by whatever means, an institution in the name of Supreme Court that the judges are telling us you can proceed and do whatever sexual orientation that you have because there is human rights. I think there must be a limitation on human rights and association. I'm not a lawyer, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, you are a lawyer. But I'm sure in your understanding, that judgment did not take into consideration the implied expectations of majority of Kenyans. We ask that the Supreme Court reviews its judgment. We ask the Supreme Court to listen to the majority of Kenyans. We ask the Supreme Court to look at what the Constitution provides in terms of the human rights. This matter has been lying there for many years. It's only this Supreme Court, which are history of making funny judgment, they are brought to us. The Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya, Martha Koome, please go back again and look at that. You have condemned our society. You have condemned our lives for our children. You are telling us any Kenyan can do anything. It's a shame. It's a shame. It's a shame. I am ashamed. I am ashamed by the decision of the Supreme Court. And we must condemn this. And we must, if there is anything that should bring us together, is this. I'm also waiting for Baba to make a comment on this.
Thank you, Honorable Indikiri, for urging everybody to make a voice on this, even as you do so. Honorable Wilberforce Oundo, MP for Funyula.
Honorable Speaker, thank you for this opportunity. Honorable Speaker, thank you for my colleague for bringing up this motion on the floor of the House. Honorable Speaker, I'm a Catholic, born Catholic, and that I must declare my interest from the word go. And as Catholics, our dogma and the teaching is expressly clear on sexual orientation. There could be other Christian sects that have got a different view about this matter, but as our Catholic, that's my foundation. Starts from there. Honorable Speaker, in the book of Leviticus, it is written this way: if a man has a sexual relationship with another man, they have done a disgusting thing, and both shall be put to death. They are responsible for their own death. There's no other way, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, when you look at the Constitution of Kenya on the national values, it's expressly clear. And I want to read Article 11 on the culture, and it's very clear. The Constitution recognizes, this Constitution recognizes culture as the foundation of the nation and as the cumulative civilization of the people of Kenya and the nation. Honorable Speaker, what does our culture say? Our culture say a man shall leave his father's house and together with the woman they find, start a home. Our culture never contemplated and never talks of any other arrangement other than what is expected. Honorable Speaker, again in the same book of Leviticus, it says, if a man has sexual relations with an animal, he and an animal shall be put to death. Bad sexual habits or orientation are classified together. Honorable Speaker, whatever they're calling themselves, that are akin to bestialists, people who do bad manners, they would say, with animals. We categorize them as the same. Honorable Speaker, many of us were alarmed, were flabbergasted beyond recovery when we heard that Supreme Court ruling. And Honorable Speaker, we have been very suspicious of the current Supreme Court. And indeed, our fears have been confirmed. It is indeed, Honorable Speaker, probably might look at it the way the Supreme Court in the US is structured, so that we find a balance between alarmists, between members who simply want to destroy this society, and those of us who values the culture of the people of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, honestly speaking, I do not even understand it. There are some things that are beyond my understanding, regardless of my level of education and exposure. I cannot understand how a reasonable man, a sane man, can leave a beautiful woman. And if there's anything that God created, the best thing in this world, in the eyes of a man, was a woman. I cannot understand how a man can admire another man. I cannot understand, even look at the structure of the body of a woman, how a woman can admire another woman. I don't know what they do when they are together. Honorable Speaker, there are some things just don't understand. I'm not an advocate. Sir George is there. Truly, the Speaker is an advocate. You really have to guide us here. I'm just at a loss. I do not even know how to even talk to my grandchildren when they tell me that the Supreme Court has made some ruling. Honorable Speaker, we need divine intervention here. Unfortunately, some Christian denominations support this kind of deviant behaviors, and probably the Supreme Court and our young people are going to take cue. Allow man and a man to attend a wedding. May the Almighty God strike them dead before sunrise. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Does the Leader of Majority want to contribute? Proceed, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Yes, indeed, I want to contribute, Honorable Speaker, because this is a matter not just of faith, but Presbyterian Church of East Africa, the Reverend Musagetao Church. And Honorable Speaker, those who advance those things, I don't even want to mention them, Honorable Speaker, have their own countries and they have their own cultures. And we respect their cultures, and they must equally respect our cultures as African and as Kenyans. And nobody should imagine that you can force down the throats of Kenyans alien cultures that are alien to our nationality and our being African, Honorable Speaker. The issues, Honorable Speaker, that the Supreme Court was addressing itself to, and I really want to avoid going for the Supreme Court in any manner because they have a duty and an obligation under the law to interpret the Constitution in the best way they think it should be interpreted. And I think even in the Supreme Court, opinion was varied. It's only that the majority decision had their say, but the minority also had, majority had their way, but the minority also in the Supreme Court had their say. And I want to identify myself with the opinion and the views of the minority in the Supreme Court, Honorable Speaker. That we shall not allow, and we must never allow our country to take up alien ideas, alien cultures, because we are a country that tends to copy a number of few things, good things, few from those other cultures. Honorable Speaker, our laws are quite clear. Our penal code still has outlawed issues to do with homosexuality. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, it was absurd that a good number in the Supreme Court did find it fit to allow a habit or something that is already outlawed under our laws, that you could now allow people to associate what happens tomorrow, Honorable Speaker, if all the pickpockets in our streets decide now that they have rights as pickpockets and they want to form the Association of Nairobi Street Pocket Thieves, or even robbers, bank robbers. Tomorrow, robbers may decide that we have certain rights under the Constitution, the right to association. But, Honorable Speaker, the Constitution also says that your rights are limited.
Majority Leader, would that be the Bank Robbers Association of Kenya region?
It could be the Bank Robbers Association of Kenya, or rapists. Tomorrow, you may find rapists saying that we are the Association of Rapists of Kenya, and we have the right to do whatever we want to do with whoever we want to do it, Honorable Speaker. And they could argue that out in a court of law and say they are guaranteed of their right to association and freedom of association, Honorable Speaker. But we must also know that our Constitution also limits everybody's rights, and especially where your rights also, in a way, overstepped to interfere with my rights. And we have also to enjoy our religious rights, our rights to worship, our rights to our own cultures. We must protect our rights. And I want to say, Honorable Speaker, as leader of majority in this House, for the time the Almighty God grants me the opportunity to serve this country as leader of majority, I will not allow, and I said elsewhere, I will mobilize this House and any other house in this republic to ensure that we protect the laws that have outlawed homosexuality, lesbianism, and all those other things that are abominable under our culture and our religions, Honorable Speaker. And we must protect our cultures, Honorable Speaker, and our being as a people. If there is anything I agree with our good friend, President Yoweri Museveni.
Give him 1 minute, he's the majority leader.
I was saying, Honorable Speaker, if there is anything I support President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni on, is on the issue of LGBT. Honorable Speaker, I will not go to the extreme in how you deal with them, but we must be forthright as a nation to protect our own cultures, our religion, and our beliefs, and we must not allow those countries from the West who believe in those things. Let them believe in whatever they want to believe in, but they must not force us to believe in the things they believe in. They must also respect our culture, our religion, and the things we believe in, but not shove things down our throats, that things we don't believe in. And we want to raise up our children in an upright country, in an upright society, Honorable Speaker, where our children will enjoy to grow the way we grew up, with morals, with good ethics, Honorable Speaker, and in a country that we can all be proud to raise our kids in, Honorable Speaker. With that, I support the Honorable Mwalio and this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Honorable Farah Malim.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know where the world is going to. Mr. Speaker, this is abominable. It's a decadent, it's an obnoxious behavior. I wish I had Babu Owino here to give me all those adjectives that he normally uses for these things. Mr. Speaker, those people are dead as human beings who support such things. In my faith, as a Muslim, the death penalty is what they deserve, people who engage in such things. And I'm proud of that. And I don't care what somebody else feels. The West has never been a moral authority. These are the people who came and enslaved us. And they came and colonized us. And they came and treated us like animals. And now they want to tell us to behave like animals. The next thing that's going to come up...
Honorable Farah Malim, which animals engage in homosexuality?
No, you're right. I'm sorry. I withdraw that bit. In the interest and the respect for the animal kingdom. The animal kingdom never engages in that. But the next thing they're going to tell us is that somebody has a right, a man has a right to marry a woman They want to tell us that a woman has a right, to marry another man, or a woman has a right to marry a woman. What do two women who are married do? What is there? God has created a man and a woman. It's there in all the Abrahamic scriptures. It's in Islam. It's in Christianity. It's in Judaism. If we allow them to take over our lives, we have allowed them for far too long for them to exploit us and to dehumanize us as human beings. On this, we will say no. If they're going to come up with the travel, restrictions, keep your country, keep your cultures, keep your nonsense to yourselves. And I'm talking to the West in this case here. Mr. Speaker, the Supreme Court itself does not make laws, it interprets the laws. You're a legal mind, I'm a legal mind. Sodomy is a crime in our books. So how should they come about now and tell us that they should be allowed to associate? Associate. The right to association. As you had said, the majority leader has said, this is like saying the right of association of the bank robbers, of the murderers, of the killers. In the US, there are a number of states that have got the death penalty. And the death penalty is for crimes like murder. And the biggest number of people who are on the death rows are fellow blacks in the US. And in Texas and a number of other states where they have Republican governors, they execute them. We cannot go there and tell them, don't take away life. They'll tell you, these are our laws. Mr. Speaker, not only shall we come with a motion of censure on the Supreme Court itself for trying to legislate from the bench, instead of interpreting the laws of the country, they want to legislate from the bench by trying to look politically correct with the Western world. They do not deserve to sit as a bench. There is need for us to bring a motion on here to ask them, where did you get this piece of legislation? Here is the act that criminalizes homosexuality. We must take them to task on that. As for us, I am of the opinion that we should pass a capital punishment on such offenses. Capital punishment, Mr. Speaker. They have their own capital punishment on murderers, on other people. Most of them are blacks who have been framed in the US, and we cannot interfere in their laws. They go on killing those people there because they say they committed murders. Here we are telling them this thing is worse than murder for us in our cultures as Africans, as black people, as a... Mr. Speaker, can you give me 1 more minute as a ranking member and the former deputy speaker? Or 2 minutes for me, actually. And we have a right.
Honorable Farah Malim, the speaker has not spoken.
Oh, okay.
You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we take charge of our own destiny. We take charge of our own. They are going to legalize marijuana. They have legalized, anything. Very soon they're going to legalize the drugs that are going to destroy our generations and children in here. It is, in my very humble opinion, that we take charge of our countries. We are independent. We are a sovereign state. We have our cultures. Our cultures do not conflict. African cultures on some of these fundamental issues are the same. It doesn't matter whether you're a Christian or a Muslim or you're a traditionalist. We all have a common culture on such things. It's my opinion, my humble opinion, that we should change that piece of act itself and prescribe capital punishment for people who can be proven to have engaged in this kind of things. When I say capital punishment, Muslims, where there's a serious Islamic states who follow their own scriptures, they carry out capital punishment on them. They do not deserve to live, in my opinion, humble opinion. they should be, yes, indeed. The next thing they're going to come to us is say that one has to be has the right to marry a dog, or one has the right to marry an ape, or anything. Just imagine a day in which somebody will come and say that this goat is my wife, or this what you call ram is my husband, and this is my right of association. I've chosen to have this as a husband, and a woman will come. That is the direction in which they're going. We are not going to be part of that. The earlier we put our foot down, they give us nothing. They only take away things from us. The earlier we put our foot very hard down and say, on this, no, the better. And I commend such countries like the president of Uganda, Yoweri Museveni, the president of Malawi. Of course, Mugabe was one guy who called out these things many years back and told them, these are nations of gays and what do you call lesbians, and these are not people that we can talk to. It's something we frown upon. We see them as subhumans. How does a subhuman tell you what to do and how to live in your own lives? So we must be able to stand on our own grounds as a continent, as the leaders. We are the leaders of this country. That should never be allowed. They should never, ever be allowed to bring this decadent, obnoxious, un-African culture. Support.
Thank you, Honorable Farah Malim. The Chair of Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, the Honorable Gitonga Murugara, the MP for Tharaka.
Thank you.
Is in the House now that we are talking about the Supreme Court, I think.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, allow me to also voice my concerns about this decision. And from the outset say we are not, as a House, attacking the Supreme Court. But we are expressing a totally differing opinion with what they rendered. That we speak, we may not speak as a court, but we speak on behalf of our own people who have elected us to represent them here. And therefore, our voice is the voice of the people, while their voice was actually the voice of the court. Mr. Speaker, I agree with the sentiments expressed by yourself and others that this is a decision that should not be left to stand in our books. We should move with speed, bring together the Supreme Court judges, the 7 of them, and let them listen to us as lawyers as we urge them to review the decision and set it aside. We know very well we cannot compare law with morality, but sometimes moral issues supersede the law. In fact, in most cases where the law becomes repugnant to morality, then that is extremely bad law and should be done away with. It is quite clear from our books that some of these things in LGBTQ are actually outlawed. And therefore, anything associated with those characters cannot be allowed to stand against the morals of the people of Kenya. Whether it's sodomy, whether it's lesbianism, whether it's queerness, whether it is anything that is outward practiced by these characters who say they have human rights. They may have their rights in private. And I'm sorry, I shiver and shudder when I imagine what they do in private, because it is totally repugnant, especially to us Africans. It's also important to condemn those who come with these ideas. And this is why today we celebrate the president of Uganda, Yoweri Museveni. We celebrate the late Robert Mugabe of Uganda. And sometimes it actually appears Idi Amin himself was a saint, because these are the things he was condemning those days, in spite of being incited by these same Europeans and Americans to kill a few Ugandans. Therefore, we as Africans must stand up. We must stand to be counted. We must tell these Europeans and Americans that for the little money they are enticing us with, I'm told they're even offering relief food to Kenyans so that you can legalize things like this one. They have been approaching our organizations, including the Kenya National Human Rights Commission, offering tokens so that they can promote rights of such characters. Thank heavens, these commissions and these organizations have said no to their little tokens. Let them keep their bad habits in Europe, in America. Let us, as Africans, keep what we consider to be morally upright and suitable for our society. For example, look at these people who are telling us today, these are human rights. They are the ones who came here, and the first thing they did was to point out that Africans do not marry out of love, but do purchase wives because they are polygamous. What is better compared to the two? Polygamy and such queerness they're advancing to us. Polygamy actually has nothing right, nothing wrong in terms of morals. It's upright. It should have been encouraged. Number two, they are the ones also who came along and told us that you people, you don't know how to live. Your customary laws are repugnant to justice and morality, and what have you. Those are the laws that had kept us Africans within the fabric of a good family, which we have maintained to date. Therefore, this judgment, this ruling, should actually be re-examined through a review. And if the review is denied, rest assured, as a house, we will move to outlaw everything they have done, because we have power to do so. I support the adjournment motion.
Thank you, Honorable Patrick Makau. Are you on intervention, or you want to contribute?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Speaker, I cannot add more. Most speakers have spoken. The first question you should ask, this parliament, we are the most important arm of this government. Mr. Speaker, we cannot allow the courts to legislate from their benches. Mr. Speaker, Article 11 is very explicit about respecting African traditions and cultures. Mr. Speaker, when I see the Supreme Court, which supposedly is supposed to be constituted of men and women, well-learned, cannot lead this country to making us believe that lesbians, gays, queers, and those likes are supposed to be given any space in this country. Mr. Speaker, that is not African, it is an African. And there is no religion which ascribes to any of those. Mr. Speaker, it's high time this parliament expressed itself in all ways, in all media houses, in barazas, Mr. Speaker. We must condemn that ruling by the Supreme Court. And Mr. Speaker, it's high time the Attorney General of this country went to appeal this ruling, because those 5 judges who passed this kind of judgment, Mr. Speaker, he favored a group of people that is going to encourage other groups. Mr. Speaker, then we should have the Mungiki, we should have Al-Shabaab, we should have rapists, we should have murderers, allowed then by the same Supreme Court to form alliances, to form associations. Mr. Speaker, when I look at that bench, none of them is less than 40 years. Mr. Speaker, what are they telling our young children? What are they telling the generations? Mr. Speaker, I'm now been made to believe that the former president of USA, Donald Trump, did not support this. Neither is Museveni. Mr. Speaker, I agree with speakers here who are saying we should not just be made slaves because we need funding from the West. Mr. Speaker, this thing of us being told before we are given money from IMF, from World Bank, we must admit, we must accept these laws. This is strange to us. Mr. Speaker, we must tell them, I know they force us GMOs, and we know the reason why they did that. Mr. Speaker, now they are here telling us we should have a man and a man marry each other. Mr. Speaker, I can't imagine myself seeing a man and having a had-on. Mr. Speaker, that is against African tradition. I must see a woman and feel like that. Mr. Speaker, I am a watcher and I'm a fan of National Geographic, which has documentaries. You see male animals being attracted to females, fighting to death. I have never seen a male animal raising to satisfy itself sexually on another male animal. So what are they telling us, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, this country, and I want to hear the leadership of this country speak against this. In fact, Mr. Speaker, I think the president of this country should write immediately to the Attorney General to appeal this ruling. It cannot be bearable. Yes, Kenya is a Christian nation. It has Muslims. It has all denominations. But, Mr. Speaker, our constitution is supreme. Article 11 explicitly said it. The Ashpal guy spoke about it, his commission, the bombers 1 and 2, they were against this. How can we then, 2023, admit the gays and lesbians of this world to rule this country? Mr. Speaker, on this seat where I sit from, I am telling people who I represent from Mavoko, if you see gays and lesbians, tell them to be wary of me, because I'm going to tell you what you are going to do with them. So are Kenyans. We cannot allow that, Mr. Speaker. We must condemn this ruling by all means, even if it means us calling those judges to apologize to Kenyans and say they judged and they ruled when they were not sober, Mr. Speaker. Then is when we are going to agree with their ruling. However, Mr. Speaker, this House has a role to legislate and make laws that befit this country. Let's not forget our mandate. Let us stand by the virtues and...
Honorable Joanna Ngino.
Speaker, thank you also for allowing me to ventilate on this. I just want to say from the onset that Article 1 of the Constitution, which talks about the supremacy of the Constitution and supremacy of the people. When it talks about the supremacy of the Constitution, it says clearly that this Constitution is supreme to any other law. And no law, including customary law, is superior to the Constitution. And any other law that is actually trying to supersede the Constitution is null and void. Mr. Speaker, when you talk about the customary law, it is the same as talking about any other law that is created in this House. We are the people who do the laws of this land. We amend the laws, we create the laws, but if that law goes against the Constitution of this country, Mr. Speaker, it is declared null and void. Same case with the laws which are made by the courts, whether it is a magistrate's court, whether it is a high court, whether it is the Supreme Court, whether it is a court of appeal. Whenever they pass any judgment, most of their judgments are deemed to be precedences, and they are used in courts or other courts as a law. So, Mr. Speaker, the ruling by the Supreme Court, whichever way it was, has gone against the Constitution, Article 11. And therefore, it means that judgment which was made by the Supreme Court is null and void because it is against the Constitution. And there is nothing else we can say about it. We will still consider in this House that that law never existed. That judgment was never made. We just consider it as if there was nothing done. As if the Supreme Court judges, if there was 6, if there was 7, they sat in vain. Whatever the decision they made in that particular judgment, it was done in vain. Because Article 11 is very clear. No same-sex marriage is allowed in this country. No same-sex relationship is allowed in this country. No same-sex penetration is allowed in this country, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, when these particular courts declare or presume to be making a declaration that they are making a judgment, they are giving a ruling that we allow these people to have a relationship, we allow these people to look at one another, we allow these people to have some association. Mr. Speaker, that is going contrary to the Constitution. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I would want to say, just like what my senior said, do we need to tell these judges to revoke? Do we need to create what we call review? Or do we need to pass in this House, Mr. Speaker? Because there was, and I don't want to preempt, there is an intention by a member to pass a law, to bring a law into this House, Mr. Speaker, that will illegalize any act of either association, either penetration, either marriage, on all these people who call themselves, I don't know, gay, I don't know, lesbians. Mr. Speaker, I think we will pass that law with Godspeed. And it will be now upon the courts to make a decision whether that passage of that law or whether that law is against the Constitution. We are waiting for that time. We are really waiting, Mr. Speaker. And I don't know if some of these decisions are based on whatever these people want to give to our country. Some of us may not want to be beggars. Some of us may not want to sell our birthright. Some of us may not want to exchange our humanity with money. We want to tell the Supreme Court, read the Constitution, Article 11, same-sex marriage is illegal, same-sex association is illegal, same-sex penetration, Mr. Speaker, is illegal. I thank you very much.
Honorable Jackson Kosgei, nominated MP.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. And I want to begin from the onset by saying the purpose of government is to protect the freedom of its people, the dignity of its people, and also the right as a community. The Supreme Court decision used its privilege to allow what has been known in the streets as the tyranny of minority over majority. The whole world and the population of the world, Mr. Speaker, is about 7.9 billion people, out of which 2.4 are Christian, 1.8 are Muslims. You talk about the Hindus, 1.3, Buddhists are 0.6, and the rest can follow. You can tell over 80% of the total population of the world believe in creation. They believe in heterosexual relationship. That is a relationship between a man and a woman. Not only for pleasure, love, and relationship, but for procreation and survival of the human race. If this has been done, and if the ruling by the Supreme Court becomes cast on the stone, then I don't think it can overturn our Constitution. We are going to invoke we the people. And this House is a house which is an arm of government. If it is the arm of government, when such situation happens, which is endangering the very survival of our people, then we must take this to referendum, where the people of Kenya will have an opportunity to speak. We cannot be dictated on by a civilization on its lowest ebb in history. Finally, Mr. Speaker, we want to look at it from the impact of this particular exercise. They want to have the whole world accepting it. All the Caucasians in the world at the moment are facing the danger of being a minority in the world because of population growth, which has dwindled. Now, you can see in the next 30 years or 40, trajectory shows that the population of Europe will be very low, that it will take Africa, which is growing, and Eastern Europe to take up to be able to carry on what they are doing. Is this what they want to import into Africa and the rest of the world to finish their population? We must say no as a matter of survival, as the representative of our people. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Timothy Wanyonyi, the MP for Westlands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me a chance also to speak on this motion. Mr. Speaker, if I asked you, what do you call this thing in your mother tongue? Do we have it even described in African languages, how it's called? Because it doesn't exist, and it never existed. You remember in the history, the Mwanga of Uganda, those small boys used to be called pitches. They used to be used as bets for this kind of thing, and those who used to be there, they used to be called eunuchs. And those are the things that these people want to teach us, Mr. Speaker. I remember once when we went to see the Pope as Catholic members of Parliament, he told us that when we come to Parliament, we should not leave our faith outside Parliament. We should always come in armed with our faith, legislate, remembering that we are Christians, we have our values, we have even our African values. They don't prescribe this kind of behavior. And as parents, Mr. Speaker, we must be very worried because these people are targeting our young people. Because this thing is infiltrating in our colleges, in our higher learning institutions, and this is the thing that they are trying to do. Remember, Mr. Speaker, in the last parliament, or maybe the 10th parliament, the 11th parliament, Mr. Speaker, there was a member who attempted to introduce a bill that was prescribing some of these things to protect the rights of people or who want to marry people of the same sex. And Mr. Speaker, we realized that and we rejected it. So, Mr. Speaker, what the Supreme Court has done is like they are making judgment not for our society, not for this nation, disregarding everything, and they want us to believe that this ruling is for the right of these people. How do we recognize an amorphous group that is not even recognized in our laws, in our constitution? We cannot do that. Or the right of association, Mr. Speaker, you remember there was a group from South Nyanza that had demanded that they wanted to be recognized, that night runners be recognized as a sport in the Olympics. Mr. Speaker.
And you can see Honorable Karoli Omundi is laughing because he knows where those people come from.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, and many other groups will come on board and start demanding for their rights, that let us be recognized because we belong here, we belong this, and on, Mr. Speaker. And we continue like that, then we'll find ourselves wiped out from the face of the earth. If we cannot procreate, Mr. Speaker, then there will be no future generation that will come in after us. In Europe, Mr. Speaker, we are having the older generation. It's more than the younger generation, and they're having a very huge gap between the older and the younger people. So what we must do, Mr. Speaker, we must guard ourselves, we must protect our culture, we must protect our children, and Mr. Speaker, we must say no to anything that is going to destroy our values. Mr. Speaker, thank you for giving me a chance to speak on this motion. Thank you.
The Honorable Yakub Ado, MP for Bura constituency.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to add my voice on this very important motion. I want to thank the member who initiated this motion. It's a very sad day for our great nation. Even for the essence of just talking about this topic, is bad. I have seen Mheshimiwa Ngeno finding it difficult even to pronounce these bad names. So for me, even talking about it is bad. I'm a Muslim by faith, and in the Quranic version, chapter 16, verse 72 says, "And Allah has made for you of yourself spouses, and made for you from your spouses sons and daughters and grandchildren." I want to challenge anybody who is pursuing this dream to show us any offspring raised from this association. We can go further and further in terms of provision of chapters in every faith, be it Islamic, be it Christianity, that condemns and illegalizes that kind of association. I don't want even to mention the name. I want to condemn that decision by the Supreme Court on this issue, and want to associate myself with the opinion of the minority of those judges. I want to laud on the same voice again His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the President of Uganda, for having taken that bold step. And I have heard that even Uganda, after he has just assented to that law, they got a very heavy downpour, a very heavy rainfall. Even for us in Kenya, I believe, as a Muslim, the many problems and challenges we are facing on this earth is because of such kind of vices, which the West intend now to put into our midst. It is time we don't sit on the fence, we don't bury our heads in the sand, we come forward and challenge this vice that wants to be brought to our youth. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Honorable Karoli Omondi, MP for Suba South.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And for the record, night running is one of the indigenous sports. Mr. Speaker, I rise to add my voice to this motion, and I would like to begin by stating that I firmly believe in the natural order of things, and that, like magnetism, opposites attract. And I also appreciate the genius of God in creating the instruments of affection and attraction between people of different gender and making them to have universal application and standards, if you know what I mean. But Mr. Speaker, life has its own complications and contradictions. So does nature. If you remember the very smart people who drafted the American Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson and George Washington and the rest of them, they say that all men are created equal and each is endowed with certain inalienable rights, amongst them life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Yet these men, with such elevated ideas and statements, owned slaves. There are many contradictions in the way human beings live and conduct themselves. So is in nature. This thing, the topic we are talking about, LGBTQ, if you look at those particular abbreviations, some of them present very complicated medical conditions. For example, transgender, where someone's gender identity is very different from what is typically known to humanity. Or intersex, where really one is endowed by both sexual organs. It is easy when you talk about lesbians, where a woman is attracted to another female, or gay, where one is attracted to people of the same gender, or one is bisexual, or is queer. Or queer is where the gender is fairly fluid. Or there's a new one, questioning, where nobody is still not quite clear what their gender identity is. Or even where one is asexual, where there's no sexual attraction. Mr. Speaker, these things present very complex issues that I see a lot of passion and I see a lot of interest in this matter. But I would like to urge tolerance. We all remember one famous man called Galileo Galilei, who discovered that the Earth actually orbits around the sun, and the sun is always at its meridian. The Catholic Church called this heresy and sentenced him to life imprisonment, and he died in prison. That was called intolerance. Mr. Speaker, Pope Francis, on Tuesday, January 24th, 2023, which is this year, uttered the following words, and I'm a Catholic, and I profess that faith. Criminalizing homosexuality is unjust. God loves all his children just as they are. Being homosexual is not a crime. Mr. Speaker, while I understand and agree that this is not part of our culture, and this is behavior that we should not support, I completely do not agree that we should exercise or show discrimination against LGBTQ on the basis of their sexual choices and orientation. As Africans, we have experienced discrimination on the basis of race.
Honorable Karoli Omondi, I'll add you a few seconds.
Yes.
But did the Pope read section 162 to 165 of Kenya's Penal Code? Or the Pope said homosexuality is not a crime in which country?
Mr. Speaker, 67 jurisdictions around the world have criminalized homosexuality. So Kenya is one of them. The Pope is aware of that. After all, much of your law is part of canon law as developed by the Catholic Church. But what I do not agree with is discrimination based on something that is a personal choice. Mr. Speaker, I would urge that we don't, as much as we discourage this behavior, much of our effort should be in education, better family values, better family lifestyles, better family engagement, and not engage in invasion of privacy as you currently see. I also wonder why sometimes the LGBTQ exhibit themselves. I think the best policy would be don't ask, don't tell. I would really urge caution that there should be no profiling of people because of their sexual choices, or denial of services or isolation.
Thank you very much, Honorable Karoli. Is Honorable Gichimu Gidinji, the MP for Gichugu, in the House? Not in the House. Let us have Honorable Ferdinand Wanyonyi, the MP for Kwanza.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for the chance. And I wish my friend, the previous speaker, I didn't even want to listen to him, but he has a right to speak in this House. The only thing is that, please, I hope you are an African. And I'm upset, Mr. Speaker, nothing personal, but let me make my point here. That somebody says is right. And I just want to find out, the Supreme Court sat, and somebody I think mentioned here, I think that sitting should be in vain. We should not even talk about it. I don't even know how I'm going to talk about, when I see that in the newspaper, I normally remove that page and throw it away because my children may just read what is actually being written there. And I don't like that because I'm an African. Please, we are Africans. We are not going to be here importing cultures that don't even make value. There's African culture, there's a European culture, but now, how do we now, and I think, I'm not a lawyer myself, I'm an economist, I want to be told by the lawyers in this House that the Supreme Court judges are Africans. And I think there's something they missed. And therefore, for us to be sitting here to discuss about this, it's an abuse of the culture, which has brought me to where I am today. And for heaven's sake, this should not even waste our time here. And I want the lawyers in this country, in this House, because we make laws for the prosperity of this country. We are not just going to take something because a white man has said that this is good there. For heaven's sake, Mr. Speaker, I want to take this opportunity and condemn that ruling by the Supreme Court because these are Africans, and I want to ask whoever she is, the Supreme Court judge is here, I hope she's listening to us, she follows this, that was wrong. It was just because she wanted to pass time and not have you and get her salary. That's different. There are more important issues than that. So, you know, like sodomy, for example, in my culture, is criminal. You don't expect somebody to sleep with another man. There are beautiful girls out there and women. How would you go and sleep and persuade a fellow man? And then you say it is illegal? My good God, please save me from this. I want to take this opportunity and ask the lawyers in this country to condemn that, and that discussion, that meeting that they had is just in vain. And I want us to discuss other things. I wish, Mr. Speaker, that I'm the last person here and we talk other business, because that is unheard of. We know that happens in Europe. We have been in Europe. We have been to Asia. We have been whatever. But that kind of behavior, even in Europe, whoever is saying is right, is not right. So, Mr. Speaker, I do not want us to talk about it because that's importation of culture. Africans are proud of having their own culture. And for us to have this in this country, Mr. Speaker, please spare this country, spare Kenya. I'm part of Kenyans, and I do not want to hear this kind of thing. And I hope that I'm going to be the last speaker on this, because we have better business in this house to discuss, and discussing about things that cannot even make sense at all. And I want to take this opportunity to ask His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency, please rule this out of order, rule this out, so that talk about it. Uganda has talked about it, and we're expecting you as a Christian. You are a Christian. Your Excellency, condemn this, outlaw this. We don't want to have a discussion on this, and I hope that this is going to be the last person. I'm going to be the last person to talk about this. Wait a minute. I'm saying it because I don't see sense in what we are discussing, because it's wrong. And therefore, I support whoever brought the motion. I was not in the House, but I support whoever brought in the motion. And I look forward to His Excellency making a comment on the same and condemning whatever said that we can, that somebody's right to do whatever he wants to do, like my colleague has just said. You get out of the House. No, I didn't say anything. I was simply saying you're a good friend.
Honorable,
I support.
Honorable Ferdinand Wanyonyi is making these passionate presentations with the wisdom of the past. Honorable Joshua Kimilu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity, Mr. Speaker. I rise to speak on the matter on the National Gay and Lesbian Human Rights Commission being legalized as an NGO. Mr. Speaker, as permitted by the Supreme Court of Kenya ruling on February 24th, 2023, Mr. Speaker, while the court ruling has opened the door for registration of this organization, it is important to note that the decision has sparked public outrage, and understandably so. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that this is not even an issue. As Kenyans, we need to listen, to sit down and listen about it, because it's against the law and against the culture and the values of our country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as a nation, our principles, norms, values, and practices have never been anchored on and defined and characterized sexual orientations, Mr. Speaker. The act of unnatural sex acts and association have been criminalized in the Penal Code, Chapter 63, Law of Kenya, and the Sexual Offense Act, number 3 of 2006, Mr. Speaker. Allowing this to happen, Mr. Speaker, to register with the gays and lesbian, it is a title set and unprecedented legal precedent, and we risk a floodgate of other groups and associations registering the similar reasons, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when we go to the Bible, Mr. Speaker, God created man, and he saw it good to create a woman. So, Mr. Speaker, this is not something we need to support, and shame on our Supreme Court for making such a decision, Mr. Speaker. It is very bad for our generation, our young people, our school children to watch when we are discussing such a thing which has been legalized by our Supreme Court, Mr. Speaker. And I want to say, when you go in a supermarket, there is exit and there is entrance and exit. And when you try to enter through the exit, it is written, it is prohibited, Mr. Speaker. So I don't see how we can try to use our exit as an entrance, Mr. Speaker. It's against the law, and it's very bad, Mr. Speaker. And those who are trying to use our weak institution to impose everything in this country, Mr. Speaker, we are going against them, and we are not supporting, Mr. Speaker. We are not going to be ruined our culture by the West. We are not going to support them. If they cannot give the donation to Kenyans with this condition, let them not give it to us, Mr. Speaker. We can stay without it, Mr. Speaker, because how can a country like Kenya, a Christian country, indulge in such an act, Mr. Speaker? And I want to urge all the preachers, bishops, church, to stand firm on this issue, Mr. Speaker. We need to condemn it, right, left, center, Mr. Speaker, because we need to take care of our coming generation. We have to take care of our children. We are parents. I'm trying to imagine sitting in a sitting room, watching the TV, such an act. Mr. Speaker, this is against the law. I cannot allow it, Mr. Speaker. So I urge this parliament to stand firm and to make sure this thing is not legalized in our country and is stopped completely. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support Honorable Mwadio for coming up with such a motion. Thank you.
The Honorable Engineer Paul Nzengu, MP for Mwingi North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also raise to congratulate Honorable Pastor Mwalio for bringing up this motion. And from the onset, I completely support the motion. And I want to say, Mr. Speaker, that the ruling by the Supreme Court to allow the registration of this organization is the beginning of the killing of our society. Because I cannot imagine a society where a woman is marrying a woman and a man is marrying a man, and for that matter, you do not expect any product out of it. I have read from the media that President Museveni has actually put some homosexuals in jail for a known period of time until when they are able to produce children. And I can tell you that that is going to be an eternity. And therefore, when you look at it, when a man starts marrying a man, then it means that we are going to have a society where there is no procreation. And in that regard, that it means that our society, Kenya, is going to disappear after a certain time. And I think this is a making of the Western and probably the Eastern as well, because most of these people who are giving us money for donations to do development are putting conditions because they're interested in our land. They see that the population of Africa is still not that high, and they want to decimate the population of Africa so that they can take it over from us. And therefore, I want to agree with the President Museveni when he said that he is not going to take any money, and they can take him wherever they want to take him. But he is not going to agree to receive donations for accepting to legalize gay and homosexuality. And also, I agree with the President Biden, the president of the most powerful country in the world. He pronounced himself on this matter. And he said that he told men that you can never be women. You do not have a womb, you do not have ovaries, and you do not have any organ that supports you to become a woman. And for that matter, it will be a shame and for your parents, because after some time, you of course grow old, feel frustrated, and probably You hang yourself, like the president said, and then after hanging, it will not change. Where the tomb where you'll be buried, it will be written your name. If you are a man's name like Paul Nzengu, it will be written there, Paul Nzengu is the one buried here. It will not change to be a woman. So I just want to advise our society, the young people, because this is mostly being carried on by young people, that you are becoming a disappointment to your parents. And I think it is a high time that we advise the young people that this is an immoral behavior, it is a moral decay, and therefore we want them to refrain from that. And maybe it's because of misinformation. I therefore want to ask church to take leadership in this matter, and let's warn young people from the highest level of the podiums or in the churches and everywhere in the mosques, so that we discourage our young people from really being dragged into this. And I want to say that I want to ask the president of this country, because the president himself has pronounced himself as a serious Christian, that if Museveni, who has not even been pronouncing himself as a Christian, has refused to bow to the pressure of the Western, then let's Kenya not accept any monies or donations that are tied to a condition of legalizing homosexuality against him. And let us pay taxes for that matter. If we must then run our country, we should not run it using dirty money that is conditioned for us to allow homosexuality engagement. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable James Nyikal, MP for Seme.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, the decision in court is that even if you look at it biologically, really, this is something that we should not propagate. People who find themselves there and accept it can do it in the privacy of their homes. And I think that's where it ends. Because in reality, Mr. Speaker, on this universe, in this universe on the earth, all physical things, living and not living, have their own properties, their own forces that determine their existence and the powers that regulate that. Interference by human beings to change that actually leads to destruction. And therefore, all those physical forces, all those factors of nature, if you're a Christian, you will say God. And all religions will also accept a greater being, a super being, and they attribute all those forces to that. If you're an atheist, you will say nature. And we all know that if you disobey nature, you actually will be extinct. What is the whole purpose of mating? We can call it sex because we add feelings to it, but it's basically mating. It is for procreation. There is no other purpose for it. So if you promote a mating that actually does not lead to procreation, eventually in the end that is destructive. And I don't see why we should pursue that. And therefore that ruling was actually giving provision for propagating it. Because you cannot say register an organization. The object of any group is to promote what they do. And I think that is where they are. So these laws of nature, these laws of God, are then what human beings, we then incorporate in our morals, in our cultures, and in our religion, and should also be in our laws. That's what we do. And in all cases, you look at our cultures, they reject this. You look at our religions, they reject this. Even our laws, as it is, reject this. The Constitution is clear about marriage, man and woman. Culture is accepted in our Constitution. Our laws are unnatural sex is illegal. So what is the argument? I cannot understand, I'm not a lawyer, the argument of discrimination when people want to propagate something which is not acceptable to all. I think our rights stop where other people's rights also begin. So in this case, I don't see what the discrimination was about. So I don't think there's any discrimination, and the lawyers that actually, the judges that passed this, in my view, I do not agree with them. Really, in life, it is those laws of nature, even when, however educated we are, professions, law, engineering, all these things, what they're studying are the laws of nature by which we live. We cannot defy these laws. Mr. Speaker, just let me just one thing. Have we not even observed the body of a male and the body of a female? They are different. The breasts, as much as we are probably sexualized the breasts, the main thing about it is actually the feeding of the babies. You look at the hips. We all look at ladies when they have big hips. What is it all about? It's a big pelvis that is for easy delivery. So we now want to actually, that is all. God is so smart that what we admire must promote babies.
Give Dr. Nyikal, because of special expertise, 1 more minute.
Well, I think if that is what you want, I can go a little bit. The truth is, Mr. Speaker, if you look at ladies, what we admire most is probably the busts and the hips. And if you look at it, what are the breasts for? For the survival of a baby. Big hips mean a lady has big pelvis and is likely to give birth without problems. So everything in nature, in terms of mating, is about procreation. Leave it at that, Mr. Speaker. I do not agree with the decision of these judges.
The Honorable Mboko Milemba, MP for Mwaya.
No, I come to Parliament very early. Take care of myself. And in fact, I want to caution some of the new members who imagine that we speak simply because we are here. I would come very early, I would feed in my card. And that's exactly what I do. And you'll still see me, even in the previous Parliament, I sat there. And that's what I was. And I still continue being that. So just be early in the House. Honorable Speaker, the Constitution is supreme. And in its Article 1, it says that all the sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya and shall be exercised only in accordance with this Constitution. But 2 is very important, Honorable Speaker, that the people may exercise their sovereign power either directly or through democratically elected representatives. That is where I will begin and end. That the Supreme Court judgment, if it is not in line with this Article 1 and 2, then it's null and void. And be that as it may, I hear the voices from members who have spoken here, the media, the clergy, and other people in this country pronouncing themselves on this. This then indicts the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court has taken a direction, Honorable Speaker, that is dangerous for itself. Because being the Supreme Court, it should be highly respected and revered. But the fact that this alone can make the people rise and go and even block it, question it, it means that it has taken a very wrong trajectory because it's not resonating with the people of Kenya and is likely to lose its authority as the Supreme Court of this country. And therefore, a word of caution to the Supreme Court, that any time they are making the laws, they must make the laws as per the Constitution. So then, Honorable Speaker, let me refer you back to our penal code. Interestingly, being a teacher of history, the penal code was brought in this country by the British when they colonized us. and they brought it in 1930 to be specific. And it was adopted in the Kenyan laws and has not been changed. In fact, later on in my speak, I will be quoting Justice Ouko, who quoted it, that in its section 62, it criminalizes carnal knowledge against the order of nature, with a penalty of 14 years imprisonment. This provision is applicable to sexual intercourse between men. Section 63 prohibits attempts to commit the offenses criminalized under Section 62, with a penalty of 7 years or above. This penal code, which we are referring to, was brought by the British law in 1930. They are the ones who brought it. So if anybody is quoting laws, imagining that there are some foreign laws and other laws that are just African, no, this was a British law in 1930. Honorable Speaker, when this matter began in the lower courts, the High Court, the Court of Appeal, all those courts, the lower courts, refused to register this organization because they quoted the penal code. They said we cannot register an organization that will propagate the interests that are against the law. Because there have been, Honorable Speaker, several attempts to challenge the penal code. But however, none of them have been successful. And you'll find in this judgment, I'm holding the judgment, justice, you know where King Muswati can do what Muswati can do. But none of the other references they went to was an African state. I want to say, so that I don't even take extra time, that this is a wrong judgment and we shall indict the Supreme Court. And if possible, we as members of parliament and leaders of the people could organize demonstrations.
We have Honorable Julius Ole Sunkuli, MP for Kilgoris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I stand in support. And Mr. Speaker, I was reading a book called Giovanni's Room, which was written in 1958. And